Hello and welcome, awakening humans, to this Raw Rozy, which is all about the dark side of the feminine and how we evolve out of victim consciousness. Yes, you are in the right place. You might have never stumbled across my channel before, but I promise you, if you've been interested in this particular subject, it's really relevant. And it is so important at this time that we open up Pandora's box around this subject. We're coming into, as we create this beautiful podcast for everybody, into the dark side of the feminine, and we come into the new moon of Scorpio. It's already Scorpio season. And I'm joined by the lovely Kate Coulson. I also call her Katelicious. Now, Kate is a Scorpio, Scorpio feminine, and she's also the lead coach of Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless, which is our RozyGlow signature program. And the main thing that we really wanted to do today was to set the scene to create some healing so that everybody who stumbles or chooses to watch this video, stumbles on or chooses to watch it, is going to receive an activation, a healing, and an aha moment that will allow everyone here to reclaim power, because there's nothing worse than feeling powerless, right? So we've both learned through situations where we have felt like victims, how to find our power in the challenge, how to turn trauma into treasure, and really how to allow ourselves to see an opportunity in every challenge. And it's important we say at this point that neither of us are counselors, neither of us are therapists, neither of us are psychotherapists. These are our personal opinions and our professional experience as coaches, as mentors, as consultants. For me, I have a healing background. We both have a yoga background, and we've worked extensively with women, and particularly women through the pregnancy and birth and baby journey. So, this is a conversation to bring healing, okay? And if you have anything that goes on for you, if you feel challenged and triggered by what we say, please just take a moment and recognize that there is something for you in that. And I want to just set the tone now that all those who are going to benefit most from receiving this message tune into this broadcast, both live and at the replay. And for anyone who is not going to benefit, who's not ready for this message, that it's a completely invisible video to you. You just don't even see it, because the moment of change is really that powerful moment, is when you decide to look inside rather than constantly projecting outside. And from my perspective, every soul will go through this journey of reuniting with the divine at some point, but first we separate from it. And what this means on this earth plane is whether we are driven by our ancestral trauma, our epigenetic trauma, and in particular, the cycles of our bloodline ancestors that we seem to repeat again and again and again. We call this karma. Or whether we allow ourselves to put our soul in control of our lives, to live as our highest self-consciousness, to practice radical forgiveness, which means there's nothing to forgive. Everything that's happened in our lives is by design. Yes, we learn through suffering, but it's not the only way to learn. And when you're done with suffering, you can let that lesson go. And that's a personal choice, a free will choice to come to. There is also a difference between having been a victim of something and what I would call wallowing in victim consciousness. Okay, so I would like you all to take responsibility for noticing where you are on these scales, because I've wallowed in victim consciousness. Kate, have you wallowed in victim consciousness before?
Of course.
Of course. So hands up, we've done it. It's all part of the journey. And this is the point, is you don't get to move out of victim consciousness until you are ready to build the bridge from being run by your ego programming, your survival programming, aka your ancestral wounding, or making the choice to plug back into your soul consciousness, to see what has been hidden, to take ownership for what you can, to remember that this journey isn't about taking responsibility for everything that happened in the past. That's not yours. You didn't create it, but to take responsibility for cleaning the mess up. And that's the starting point. So I have some notes so we stick to time. Kate, would you like to come in and share a little about you and your journey and where victim consciousness has kind of played out for you most? And then I'll come in and share my bit.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I am sitting in my beautiful yoga studio created by my husband and I in France. So we've had a long practice of taking responsibility for our own happiness. We live at a place called Happy Coulson. I'm Happy Kate Yoga. He's Happy Coulson Pools. So we've been practicing for a long time how to really take ownership of our own happiness. However, we are human beings, and feeling like wallowing in a pity party and blaming someone else for the things going on in your life is a thing, and that's what we're going to be talking to and about today, and just sharing our experiences of it. So, for example, when I have broken my leg, or I was bitten by a tick apparently and got Lyme disease for 2 years, within that there was a lot of fodder for my victim consciousness. And actually, it was thanks to, at the same time as that, doing the Fearless program, of which I'm now head coach, because let me choose my words carefully. What the Fearless program did for me was open myself up to my full potential. It helped me realize all the ways I was getting in my own way. And victim consciousness, the wounded feminine, is one of those things where we get in our own way. And Rozy and I, with all the programs that Rozy proposes, and especially Fearless, we are in the business of very kindly and compassionately lighting up within ourselves and accompanying others to feel safe enough to do the same for themselves, lighting up, bringing into the light with lots of compassion, radical forgiveness, as Rozy has said, using our discernment, practicing all these things, and coming away with a whole load of tools which help you navigate all the situations, which will just keep on coming the further along you go. And I can say with 100% honesty now that thanks to that, and my fearless journey started 5 years ago, over 5 years ago, 5 years and 6 months. But I've known Roni for uh,
Since
15 years.
2010.
This is having it 15 years, and we've both been on our yoga journeys. I've been on a sort of conscious journey of exploring myself since 2000, and I'm committed to doing this for the rest of my life, every single day, and becoming more and more aware of the feminine and the masculine within me, because it all starts there. And every time you start pointing the finger outwards, that's just a really good remember to go inwards and tackle that first.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Kate Lish. And I think this is the point: is we intend today to give you some really practical mindset shifting and life shifting tools, perspective shifts that will allow you to see what's possible. Obviously, this is information. This is the what. The how is a methodology. And wherever you are on your journey, there's always a step you can take. So what I'd love every one of you to do at this point is to make a promise to yourselves that once you have watched and integrated this, you will take your next step, because wherever you are, nothing's going to come to you. It can't. You have to step out of where you are. You have to make a stretch beyond what you know to be met by what you want. All right. And Kate and I have both recognized the hard way that we cannot possibly support those who are metaphorically in the middle of a lake, like wailing about the fact that they're drowning and they need help, but making absolutely no effort to go to shore, right? You're going to have to drown. You're going to have to drown and come back before you decide, oh, there's some help. I'm going to go towards it, right? And I say this not intending anyone go drown themselves. Please take that away. This is metaphorical, right? But what I'm talking about is until you decide you've really had enough, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of whatever's going on in your life, things can't change. And this thing that Kate just said about, I mean, this reminds me of my mum, because she always used to say, if you point the finger out, look inwards. And it's absolutely true. However, there's also a point at which discernment plays a key part, and you go, this isn't my stuff. This is brought to my doorstep. And actually, I get to go, no, boundary, done. And it will test you every which way. Only recently I have been literally primed for this conversation today. And it's like, am I going to bite? Am I going to go out of my center? Am I going to hold my sovereign energy, which is what we want to gift every one of you, right? Is the fact that it's a choice. It's a choice, and it's a command to become sovereign. And sovereign means you no longer give your power away to others, their opinions, right? Needing to be liked by them, needing to be approved by them. And this is really important for us as feminines coming into a resolved, mature, sacred, and divine element. And I think the reason that is so key for us to have this conversation now is we're coming out of the era of the patriarchy. And there's a lot of really pissed off women, right? And a lot of really pissed off men, right? There's been a lot of suppression of feminine strength and power in this era. But once upon a time, there was quite a lot of suppression of the masculine strength. And it's important to recognize this seesaw effect to find our balance. We're currently moving into the age of Aquarius. It's a long birth canal until 2032. Now, the era of the age of Aquarius is the era of the divine child, the star children, uniarchy. So, mum had her go, dad had his go, lunar, solar. Now it's the time of the stars. And we are all of these things. So, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexual orientation, you have an inner feminine frequency and an inner masculine frequency and a unified frequency. And what we're doing is speaking in code to activate the bits of you that are still in shadow, are separate, are not unified, and to let that healing happen inside. So, what would you like to say to that, Kate, before I go any further?
It's exactly that. I'm a Scorpio, as Rozy has shared, and I'm fresh out of I'm fairly advanced, fairly hardcore forest yoga class, and it's half men, half women. And I said, I'm Scorpio. It's my birthday tomorrow, in fact, and I'm not taking any shit. Excuse my French. If you say you want to go somewhere, but you don't take the direct action to do that, actually, right now, in this month of November, I'm not interested. There is a real calling. It seems to be that this whole year, especially the 11/11, it was like, where are you going to put your energy? It's like the red poppies and the white poppies in the UK. Do we keep looking back to the blood and the past and being, like stuck in that story? Or do we say gratitude, gratitude for those people who gave their lives? And now we choose peace. And where does that peace come from? It comes from this work that we're talking about. It comes from taking responsibility for your own inner masculine and feminine and seeing where they are at war and choosing peace instead. And that is something that you have to learn, and I needed to be supported through that journey, and that's why Rozy and I do what we do. I needed to have tools. On the Fearless program, we do a complete emotional mental detox. You need to kind of sweep out and clear as much as you can, and then find new tools to do it a different way. There's a real feeling of being reborn this year. There's a real possibility to do over. And that means being really humble about the bits that no longer serve you. And I've been sort of hearing that for many, many years, but it's only this year that I'm really feel that we have the chance to do this for once and for all. And it does take a kind of balanced feminine and a balanced masculine. The masculine to hold the structure and the woman to come in lovingly. But the best mums, are the boundaried mums. A child is not happy if it's got no boundaries at all. So between balanced mum and dad, this is the time for us to be so held and say, I am ready. I am ready to begin again. And it's really right here and right now.
So, yes. So, on that note, if you're loving what we're saying so far, thank you for showing your support by subscribing. This channel has been long growing, so every subscription makes a huge difference. And you can go to the notifications tab and just put all notifications so you know every time we come in. We offer a Raw Rozy once a month, and we've just been given the great idea to just make this into a podcast too. So you will have an audio version. But let's sort of come into this space of where we take ownership and where both myself and Kate have had our sort of relationship with victim consciousness. So for me, the primary places are actually to do with love and how I was like a magnet for Mr. Wrong, Mr. Unavailable, not that interested, not that into me, not that committed, and also finance, money. I come from a background where money is a dirty word, actually, for want of a better word. And it doesn't really matter whether I'm talking about my bloodlines or my step family. There's definitely been a sense of how I shifted the money mindset and allowed myself to move out of this idea that life's happening to me, that I just have to accept my lot, be grateful for what I've got, and not rock the boat, right? I'm a big energy, and so I've always been told as a young child to play small, to just push it down a bit, to like calm it down. And, if you've got that kind of messaging in your early life and you've got a mission that's big, then it can seem quite contradictory. You're putting your own fire out. So we're going to go into some examples. Kate, where has it been for you that you've really experienced victim consciousness? I know you mentioned health. Anywhere else that you've really seen it?
In all areas, if we're really, really honest, and transparency is part of the work that we do, is really being able to look at all of these places with love and with gratitude, because it's thanks to them that we're here. Victim consciousness around money, um, victim consciousness in relationships. I have had only two in my life. I'm with my husband now for 32 years, and I'm witnessing within both of us where we both slide into victim consciousness. And for me, I was thinking about this in the car on the way here, Rozy, and and I mean no disrespect. I'm a woman, but victim consciousness is the sort of pointy finger, frowny face, like me. You've done that. That for me. And I heard it just today actually from my gorgeous husband, who said, "We need to make more time for each other." And I was like, and there it is. So it appears absolutely everywhere. I'm seeing it also. I'm sure that it's coming up all around me at the moment, because this is coming up to be cleared, being brought into the love and the light. I'm seeing it massively in we have some flats. It's our retirement fund, and one of our tenants is a young woman. And oh my word, she thinks she has been so hard done by in life, and she is out for everything that she can get. And it makes her actually a really nasty person. And we've been sort of just coming back to ourselves and checking, with the fearless tools. There's an incredible star map called the Six Pillars of Divine Human Leadership. And
I'll
that's
get
first and
it.
foremost how we lead ourselves before we can think about leading anyone else. The work starts at home. And when I come back and I practice this, and I practice grounding and breathing and making sure that actually I'm coming from a really good place, then I can hold a boundary, as Rozy said. And in my experience, actually, those boundaries that I create from this really good balanced place, this is the six pillars of divine human leadership. There are three qualities of the sort of masculine divine right action on the top. Am I acting in integrity? Am I being accountable? Am I being transparent with myself, with others? And then at the bottom is the feminine, the more yin qualities. Where do I need to practice more compassion, more forgiveness? And really the key one, I've just mentioned it, discernment. And Rozy mentioned it
Second
as well.
pause. There are going to be oracle cards coming with these maps very, very soon. I'll put the link in the chat box about it because they're so powerful when you know how to work with them. Carry on, my darling.
And they're also in the Star Piece 101 book. And if you haven't got a copy of that, hang a banger until December, because the latest version, which is absolutely on fire, is coming out. But coming back to the six pillars, once I've checked in with where I am and what I am saying, where my boundaries are coming from, it provokes no attack at all. If I'm in victim consciousness and that creates a boundary, it's going to trigger the other person to do the same. And it's just going to fire, and we're going to be stuck in war as we have been. Now is the time to do over, to do differently. And it takes being humble. And as Rozy said, radical forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. It's not a question of being right or wrong and beating yourself with a stick. It's like, can I bring it all into the love it all, be grateful for it all, and then open up to an easier path, easier for us and easier for the world.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much, Kate. And this is the thing right now. So if anyone who's here wants to say hello and put any questions in the comments, please do, so that we can respond to them. And if we don't get to do it in the live and you put them in afterwards, I reckon there's probably going to be a part two, possibly a part three of this as well, because it's a very deep subject. And everything we touch on will open a door to something else. So let's just say, I want to give the example because, as you said, the victims in your life, let's set the tone. Where are we? We've just had Samhain, Halloween, which is officially the start of the New Year's series of New Year's, right? You have the Celtic New Year, then you have the solstice, which is again considered a new year. Then you have the Gregorian New Year, then you have the Chinese New Year, and you have the astrological New Year after that. So there's a lot of newness this side of the year, right? And the point with that is every time it comes to New Year energy, it's about reclaiming sovereignty. So we've been very active online offering sovereignty codes so everyone can reclaim our energy from giving our power away to external authority, which is what the patriarchy represented. Okay, giving our power away to someone and something outside of us, the masculine, the systems, the structures, the control that would allow us to feel safe. And there is the issue. Nothing outside will make you feel safe. The safety is an inside job, right? First and foremost, when we're in victim consciousness, we don't feel safe and we want someone to make us feel safe. And the rainbow gem card this week, because we have rainbow gems we pick as well, is no guilt, no blame, no shame. So the perspective we are talking from right now is not about looking for someone or something to blame. I'm not blaming the patriarchy. The patriarchy was necessary for us as humanity to evolve into the current state, which some would say is a huge devolution, devolution. But actually it's not. It's a step back to go forward. So just take a breath if this is all feeling a bit overwhelming, because I can feel the confusion, which is concept fusion. Thank you, John Assaraf, for that. When ideas are kind of starting to shift and it's not your current way of seeing things. And what happens is that, but, and it's like, no, no, just suspend for a minute, write your stuff down, pause, take a step back. Do you want to feel empowered? Do you want to notice where you can make a change? Do you want to let go of the narratives that aren't serving you? And I'm talking specifically to those of us who consider ourselves very spiritual and very progressed on our path. And maybe we're even coaches and mentors and consultants and healers and leaders and guides ourselves. And, we know everything. No, we freaking don't. None of us do. And it doesn't matter how far you go on this journey, a little humble pie just means, all right, this is where I'm masterful and this is where I'm learning. And this piece around how many times you go around the merry-go-round is very important. And I say this because a lot of our spiritual teachings say you'll just keep encountering the same lesson until learn it deeply, face all the shadows, and then you won't need to encounter it anymore. And it's true, but let's just widen the lens on this. Because let's just say when we talk about relationships, you have a program. So you grew up in a family where basically relationship dynamics were not very healthy. Okay, they might have loved each other, your parents, but they had a really lousy way of showing it, right? Maybe there was some cheating going on. Maybe there was shouting going on. Maybe there was just control tactics, even what do we call it? Codependency, right? And this is the point. This is such a deep subject. The point with this is that you grow up around whatever you grow up around, you think that's normal. That gets hardwired into you. And then you are a vibrational frequency match for your hardwiring. This is epigenetic trauma and early life conditioning. And so you will only ever attract whatever love was expressed to you, you saw around you as a child, right? Now, in my own experience, toxic love programming meant that one of the earliest memories I had or earliest experiences I had is that love hurts. I learned that when you love someone, you suffer for them. If this is true for you, put it in the comments, please. When you love someone, you feel pain in your heart, right? I had learned that love meant longing, not having. It was unrequited love. That was the story between my mum and my dad constantly, like a awfulness on some levels and amazingness on other levels. But the point was, I was then a magnet for the replica of my early life. Now, there's a long story before my parents had children, but let's just say the challenge of having children definitely created a gap And in that gap, there was a lot of emotional immaturity that led to a lot of pain. And that goes from both parents, but one parent in particular played away, and that caused a lot of suffering for the other parent. I'm just being general here because I want to respect my family, basically. Now, what I learned from this was I was only ever a magnet for those who somehow triggered this old wounding, right? And I ended up very early on in my life having a child with a man who I'd only known for 6 weeks. Now, was he definitely meant to be the father of my child? Absolutely. Was I meant to have a child that I'd only, with a man I'd only known for 6 weeks? I believe so. Was that the best start for my child? In hindsight, I'd say probably not. I would love to have come from a very secure and level foundation, but we can only ever be where we are. And this is why I'm talking about forgiveness and radical forgiveness, being there's nothing to forgive. In my book, in my perception, we choose our parents. We choose the conditions of our early life. And that doesn't mean that they're perfect. In fact, we might have come into some tremendous suffering, right? And many light leaders, star seeds, light workers, empaths, anyone who identifies as an empath will have come from some kind of toxic early life programming, right? And it doesn't have to just be about love. It can be about health. It can be about wealth. It can be about purpose. Whatever we grow up around, we perceive is normal. And so we replicate that until something in us goes, is this really what I want? So I really learned, first of all, what it felt like to be a victim consciousness, being in a relationship that I perceived as abusive at the time. And there was definitely some abusive tendencies there. And I would say from both parties now. Back then, it was about what was being done to me, right? And I was seeing through the lens of this is happening to me. I have no control over it. And I'm a victim of circumstance. I even ended up in some kind of charitable support where I was encouraged to see that what I was going through was a form of abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, whatever you want to say. Was it conscious from the other party? Absolutely not. Did they do it purposefully? No. It still happened though. And I know at this point that there might be many whatever your gender, you may well be in a situation like this. There could be court battles. I know, Kate, you've had this experience as well with people you know, where it seems the most horrendous and unfair things are happening. And you have no control over it. Let's just say you've split with the other parent, and then when your children are with the other parent, they're parenting them very differently. They seem to be undoing your good work. They're undermining you. It could be way worse than that. And we're talking here particularly around wounds around narcissism and martyrdom, okay? And we all have both those shadows to work with. But the point is, you can really go deep in that story. And what you focus on grows. So then you end up in a situation where this is reaffirmed everywhere you go, and you only see through that lens, and your whole self identity becomes that lens. And it seems an insult actually to go, what do you mean I've contributed to this? How have I enabled this? How is this my fault? Right? I'll never forget how freaking angry I was. In fact, I remember when my daughter was 14 and she was going through a really tough time. And out of respect, I'm just not going to go into the details, but that girl needed me in a different way to how I could show up because my wounding couldn't see beyond the fact that everyone else was being unfair and I was the only one who was right. Right? And the point is, someone pointed out to me, a mother of children who were much older, that it's likely I was going to suffer for some time longer. And I was livid when she said that to me. Okay, yeah, you're going to suffer some more. It's like, what? I've suffered enough. I've suffered enough. And the point is, yeah, where did the story change for me? It was when my daughter was in such a challenging way herself, mentally and emotionally. She didn't want to be with me anymore. And I was dealing with, well, what was a life-threatening situation, really, one way or another, however we want to look at this, right? And I had to start looking at my part in it. I had to start looking at how I was contributing to the pain in this child rather than the other parent, rather than whatever else was going on. And I think it's very important for us all to remember that it is said that you're never given more than you can handle. There are times you can really feel like, come on, what's this all about? And actually, the truth is, you can end up welcoming way more than you need to learn the lesson, right? Because the reticular activation systems is all part of your brain and your eyesight and what you look for and how you make sense of the world around you is looking for patterns. So it will create patterns and look for them and put them there even when they're not there. So if you want to break the cycle, the first thing is to stop looking outwards and choose to decide that even though you can't see how you are contributing to this right now, you are willing to start to see the uncomfortable truth. From there, you can then start to grow and evolve and change. And back to, for me, my whole story around the fact that there were no men that were interested in strong women, because that was one of my narratives. I'll never forget saying to a guy who was in my house, yeah, the only man in our house is the hamster, and even he's not that interested. And I had to really be pulled up on it to be like, you're creating that. Kate, where would you like to go with this?
It's so interesting because what came to me while you were talking is the L word, lack. When we have a lack story anywhere that sort of is, oh, that is going to give a woe is me energy. And when we look to someone or something else to fill that hole in us, it's never going to end well. It's actually not going to nourish us at all. And when I was listening to your story, Rozy, I was thinking, and I was born into a family who didn't want one daughter, it was a farming family, and I was the second daughter. And my dad's mum gave my mum a shop bought condolences card when I was born to say genuinely, I'm so, so sorry on the birth of your daughter. And I wasn't named for a month because they'd chosen David, and clearly, they couldn't, well, they felt they couldn't name me David. I mean, they could have named me David, but they didn't. And so I was nameless. So I was born into that. So my response to that was not to go into victim consciousness. So I flipped the coin, which is the same coin. And I came into this, I'm going to be better than the men. And this is the sort of the feminism, the sort of fighting for power, which, it's all had to happen. And now quite a few women that I see are still kind of stuck in that very masculine kind of feminine, which is the wounded feminine. The wounded feminine who feels that she has to be more masculine to succeed in the world. And we came through the 1980s where we were all told to wear, the power suits with big masculine shoulder pads, to cut our hair short, to walk as though, we have a dick in our trousers, and all of the fitness things were buns of steel. And buns of steel, oh my Lord, I've spent a decade undoing my buns of steel. Because if you have buns of steel, you cannot be the fluid, the Shakti of the feminine, this beautiful creative force. It literally shuts you down. So when Rozy said this is such a deep conversation, it really is because it's bottomless. Pardon the pun. It's limitless. And the thing is, if you're thinking, oh my God, there's so much here, there's so much here, that's okay. We cannot understand it all. That's the biggest cosmic joke. So there is one of our rainbow gems is there's no need to know. That's just your ego. Let it go. So if you're kind of, oh my gosh, I can't understand this, that's okay. Hands on heart, feet on the earth, breathe, drop into your heart. And these are all things that we learn through the programs that Rozy offers. And I'm such a super fan of them all. But the Fearless program really allows us to get so steady that we can be really, really honest with ourselves, transparent and compassionate and full of gratitude and love and forgiveness radically to allow all those things to come to the surface. And actually, sometimes that is all it needs. Sometimes all we need is to turn a loving light on something, and that's all the healing it needs. Sometimes another rainbow gem, noticing fixes more than fixing. So if you're kind of thinking, oh God, well, is that within me or within someone else? Is that wounded feminine? Is that wounded masculine? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is the beauty of it. If you're noticing something that kind of makes you go, it's that's not it, because where we're going now, the new earth paradigm is grace and ease, it's star peace, it's joy and love. And what we're doing, and through our programs helping others do, is clear the way. Get out of our own way, clear the way, so that all these little bits that come up from our ancestors, our past lives, I mean, whatever it is that you want to bring to the table, it's welcome here. Because all of those little things that hide in the corners, we are shining love and light on them, including the dark side of the feminine, which can be, actually, she can be a real bitch.
Mm.
And I have to be, I'm always checking in whether I'm being, honest and transparent, or am I just being a bitch? And this is what programs like the ones we offer really help you refine. It's like this constant checking in. And before I used to think, oh, one day, I won't have to do any more of this work. And then our gorgeous yoga teacher, Ross Rayburn, who was on the first yoga teacher training that where Rozy and I met, actually, he said, there is no destination apart from death. And he said, and I'm certainly not, hastening along that route. And I was like, wow, because, with a yoga posture, I wanted to do the best yoga posture because I was very masculine. That's how I survived, in fact, and survived abusive step parent as well. It actually served me well to hide my femininity. And then so I was conditioned to go for it. And a lot of feminines have been conditioned to go for it and become very hard and harder than the men, and at the same time criticize the men and blame the men. And while we're in that cycle, it's really unhelpful. So there is no destination. What we want to do is dance along this road between, and I'm doing purposefully this figure of eight movement, the infinity sign, the divine sacred union between the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. We all want to be more balanced, and the real true balance is not fixed. It's constantly moving, and you'll know from your own lives that things are constantly changing. And what we want to help you do is fill your toolkit with tools so that you can deal with the things that arrive on your path. And actually, by turning inwards with such humility and compassion, you can actually see the things that are rising much more easily. So it just takes the tiniest little course adjust to be able to navigate life so much more gracefully and easily. Aho.
I could listen to you all day, and I think this is the point: is we are, you know, we want to, like when you were talking about the yoga and the 80s, it immediately made me think about the fertility issues in this world today. So many women don't know that when we sort of took on this sense of, yeah, like think about the 90s and like the whole ladette culture and the whole like, cool Britannia and everything else that was going on in England. It was like the Spice Girls, etc. But it was this girl power that wasn't girl power. It was actually raw in a way. It was us being in our masculine going, well, I'll just do what the boys do. And I did a previous raw Rozy about why having sex with people you just met, if you want a long-term relationship, is generally not going to work out. Now occasionally it does, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but the point is learning to respect yourself is key to getting respected by someone else. It's the resonance, right? And we can respect ourselves and show that respect in lots of different ways. And yes, we can have wonderful times with strangers. But the point is, if you're looking for something long term and you're showing up for something short term, it's a mismatch, right? Just to sort of bring this full circle to what I was saying a little before, because then we'll come into some strategies for everybody. The whole thing with, as I said, this issue with fertility and women taking on the stance of the masculine is that we push the hips forward, lock our knees back, and then you're straining the fallopian tubes and the ovaries. Now, I've been to fertility clinics and tried to have conversations with the doctors there about this. They thought it was freaking crazy, but it doesn't mean it's not true, right? If you align yourself in such a way, and I have supported women to get pregnant all around the world that had had 7 rounds of IVF, God knows how many miscarriages. This stuff we're talking about affects everything, right? Because if you feel like you're a victim of your mother's toxic love, her own story and programming, you're not going to want to bring kids into this world. Even if you consciously think you do, your subconscious inner child is going, no way, don't want my child to experience what I did, right? So it's really important for us to understand that much of what we think we get about female empowerment isn't actually really the feminine empowered. It isn't the feminine in balance. And what you just said, Kate, about balance, about your center is constantly shifting according to what's going on around you. This flow is key. Life is flowing. Creative, sexual, fertile energy is flowing. Now, I mentioned earlier my toxic love programming, which led me to be a mum, a single mum within 10 months of my daughter's early life, right? So I went from high flying university graduate, from having gone all around the world, studied lots of different schools around the world, and, you know, had a really privileged lifestyle, to then being a single mother on benefits. And I was in the single mum club for quite a while. And I remember when I first started my business, looking around, and I had a core group of friends I used to hang out with who were also single mums. And the point is, every one of them was wounded. We were all wounded. Men were the enemy, but we wanted a man to come and make us feel better and save us. And at some point, I realized I actually had to step out of that group. I had to step out of that space. If I wanted to be a successful businesswoman and I wanted to have a healthy relationship, I was going to have to do some inner work around this. And I was already a yoga teacher, by the way. I was already a Reiki master, by the way, right? I was already, you know, on lots of levels doing the thing, but I wasn't, because we're very good at pushing out. We can help everyone else, but not our own self. Think about that, feel into that. And, you know, what is the story that you're telling the world they need to get on board with when your own life is a shambles? Pay attention to that as well. Okay, there's always lessons being learned through our relationship with the world around us. Now, I ended up in a 10-year on-off relationship. And this is why I wanted to talk about, when do you get off that cycle of karma and just decide, no, I'm just not doing that anymore. Soul contract ends here because I've chosen it to end consciously. I am sovereign and I am not playing into this anymore. Doesn't mean you've got to face everything with this person and keep going into the mud. No, you learn your lessons. Why have you attracted this situation? What has it taught you about yourself? What is the mirror you are presenting to the other? This 10-year on off literally was someone turning up on my doorstep, deciding that they wanted to be with me, and me acquiescing, just through the sheer shock of someone stepping forward towards me. Not did I actually fancy them, did I like them, did I want to be with them, but purely on the basis that they came into my field. And this is the thing about boundaries that I really wanted to express today. Pay attention to what you are calling into your life. Do you have a practice? Do you have a morning practice? Do you have a ritual of coming into contact with your highest self every day? Or are you waking up every day going, why is this happening to me? Life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. It's showing you where you are resonating. What are people doing? What are they bringing towards you? Right? And this is all part of our methodology, how we see things, how to take ownership, right? When we talk about Fearless and the other programs we run. And the bottom line is, in this situation, I kept in it, even though we kind of ended it every 3 weeks or so, because I didn't feel I was worthy of anything better. I had an earworm, which was actually partially this person, but other people as well, that said, you're not worth anything more than this. You're scum. You're a single mum. You're a whore. I've had words like that said to me, because I was pretty promiscuous earlier in my life. Doesn't make me a whore, even though there's nothing wrong with being a prostitute. If that is your profession and you're a sex worker, this is the whole point, is all of us reclaiming our power, right? But when we have been treated in a derogatory way, when we have been told things about us that are not true, but they've been said so many times we start to believe them, this really erodes our sense of self. And in the end, I did 10 years of going round the merry-go-round until I decided I was done. There was no more doing another round of this. And this is your discernment to know when to get off and go, this isn't going to get better. The raw ingredients mean it's not a match. And everyone deserves, like, is worthy of having a match before you go into the deep shadow work, right? So if someone's coming into your field as a friend or as a colleague or as a lover or as a partner or as a boss, and they are revealing shadow to you, they are creating or co-creating with you the conditions of you feeling like a victim in the situation, then there is a karmic play here. Yes, you get to own your power, to claim your inner authority, and to decide whether you're a yes for more of this or not. Now, when you've only got someone constantly telling you how crap you are and how worthless you are, and that's what you grew up around as well, it's a harder journey, right? But the point is you can change it. And it's important just to make that decision today that you might not know how, but you can. Now, let's just quickly, because we've got about 8 more minutes before we need to wrap up. What is important here for us all to remember is we are evolving as a humanity out of being wired to survive into being wired to thrive. Yes, birth, pregnancy, conception, and relationships play a huge part in this shift. And until you have a healthier relationship with yourself, you can't really have a healthier relationship with another person, right? So the first one is with you, and it's also with your soul and the connection to the cosmos and source and whatever else you might believe in. Remember that the world is reflecting your beliefs. Now, it's not reflecting your conscious beliefs, it's reflecting your subconscious beliefs. So if you don't like what you're seeing, that's a sign that your subconscious needs a detox and a rewiring, okay? Now, for those of you who are in a position to invest in yourself, which is what Kate did, what I did, what everyone who comes through our programs does, at some point they recognize that until they switch the program from survival to thriving, they're just going to have more of the same, dished up, looking different. It's the same meal though, same meal, dressed differently. And then you have to go through the process of a fuel change. Because if you've been running on adrenaline and fear and struggle and stress and poor me your whole life, which then becomes like victim becomes persecutor, right? We're only really talking about victim consciousness right now, but the woman scorned, that green-eyed monster energy, is the other side of this. It's the I'll show you how powerful I am, and it's destroying and annihilating the other, which is not balanced, sacred, divine feminine, right? So the point is, if I give you the analogy of your life vehicle having learnt to run on petrol, it could have run on petrol or it could have run on hydrogen, but through the womb it learnt to run on petrol. It's not your mum, the womb's fault. If the womb is programmed to run on petrol, you will be programmed to run on petrol. And it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations back. We're all dealing with epigenetic backlog. And the thing is, you can't change what happened back then, but you can definitely draw the line now and clear it up so that your descendants, whether they're born or not, don't carry the patterns on. And that's what we're in the business of. That's what we do with people. When you're ready to go, this stops with me. This mess in this house that I inherited, I didn't put it here, but I'm going to clear it out. That's when you're ready for this work. All right. And it's okay. You will be shown again and again how you are showing up differently to how you want, how you're showing up as a victim, wanting to show up in your empowered self. And with all of this, the key is to remember en masse we're doing it. So when we do it for ourselves, this is how you create world peace. You do it for the collective. When you decide to shift your frequency, your internal resonance, your what you radiate out magnetizes towards you something different, because what you radiate out shifts. You decide you're no longer available for certain experiences, and you do the clearing to allow you to match with your new frequency. It's one thing to decide it, it's another thing to then resonate with it, right? And don't think this is in your willpower, because it freaking isn't. If you are here thinking you can just make the decision now that it's going to change and it changes, good fucking luck. Sorry, but like, it doesn't work. I did 15 years of it, because your conscious mind is only in control for 5 to 6 minutes maximum of every hour. So that's how long you can be in control for. The real truth is, behind that, I'll do it myself, is deep fear. There's a perspex wall around your heart because you've been hurt so much. How can you trust anyone? You can't. Every time you have trusted, it feels like you've been betrayed, abandoned, or rejected. And so that wounding must be cleared up. In the chat box, I'm going to put for you a link to the core wound quiz. Okay, this is a 6-question quiz that will give you a sense of whether it's abandonment, rejection, or betrayal that is your core wound that you are playing out again and again and again. It doesn't matter if it's in business, in love, in finance. You want to know what it is. Now, make sure you keep an eye on your emails, because what will follow that is a really beautiful resource that will help you to access the frequency codes of sacred union. And this really is your starting point to see whether or not you are a match right now for the Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless program, or whether actually you might be a match for something else that we offer, like a narrative rewrite and maybe early influences decoding. And I promise you, I'm currently taking responsibility for this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it in the future. So at the time that I'm creating this, I am getting back to people who take on the quiz, and then you go through the resource we give you. There's some extra questions in the resource. If you answer those questions, I will come back to you with a personal message about your next step. I will DM you. So make sure you're following us. Make sure, you look up Kate Coulson, look up RozyGlow. We'll put the details in the text box. But just make sure that you look at that resource, you do the extra questions, and then either you will be invited to a call or you will get some personal messaging from me around your natural next step. Okay. And this is really important because this is the next step everyone can take here. If you're watching this, you will get golden support, right? You will get a message that will change your life. I promise you. You have to be willing and ready to receive that message. Everything about where we are now, 25 to 26, and what happens in the next couple of years is about us reclaiming our internal authority, our power as co-creators of our reality, our power to change the narrative for ourselves and the collective. So no, there's no room for, I can't do anything. Yes, you can. And it's firstly, show me how I can help myself. And that's when you get the support from others, because helping yourself means leaning into trusting others. It's a necessary part of the journey, and also being discerning about who you trust. Both of us are in sacred union relationships. Both of us have seen so much shadow in our own relationships to actually overcome, right? Whether it's with our current partners or with others. I've had many partners, Kate has not, but I've been through a lot, right? And so to be in my sacred union now it's the culmination of all those years. So I'd love your feedback. We are definitely going to need to do a part 2 on this, Kate, because I think talking about the woman scorned is key. Any final thoughts from you before we draw this to a close?
Yeah, that's just really interesting that there are the two sides, aren't there? And there's more than two sides to everything. So all conversations are infinite. And bringing it back to that is key. So go to the quiz. I mean, that for me, there's elements of all core wounds, but the quiz is a really, really helpful place to start. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, this is speaking to me, what can I do? That's what you can do. Take one action. In the Fearless course, we call it conscious mind alignment. What can I do? What small step can I do? A small step towards creating a daily practice, a commitment. You are sovereign. You are responsible for your own life. And through that work, you will influence more than you ever thought possible. So we're in this together. Let's all step up and take responsibility. And I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kate is the master of methodical, systematic approach. I have had to learn that structure. So if you're more kind of chaotic energy, like I have been, it's perfect for you. If you're someone who's more methodical, it's perfect for you too. Like what we're talking about is systems that work for everybody. They're adapted to work for everybody. That's what the star maps are in the book. And thank you again for subscribing, for following. Please put any questions you have as a result of what we've shared in the chat, in the comments. And if that doesn't feel right for you, DM us. Make sure you're following us to DM us, and we'll do our best to get back to you. What we will do is we'll make another video, right? And How do insidious control tactics get brought to light and shifted? Well, exactly how we say, by leaning, by turning your light towards them, seeing what's coming towards you. And I'm going to actually save that for a separate conversation, Kate. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, perfect.
It's a big one. All right. So the boundary gets drawn, and this is really simple, when someone keeps coming into your energy field unannounced, uninvited, and wants somehow to take something from you, wants somehow to engage with you without your permission. Boundary it. No, I didn't call you in, not consciously. What is it in me that is attracting this? Let me deal with that. We have all sorts of tools, trigger sheets, challenging limiting beliefs, relationship harmony dynamics, all that kind of stuff we do, right? But the point is, you don't have to put up with people doing what they're doing. You draw the boundary, you draw the line, and it is essential that you pay attention to where you try and people please, give over your power for approval, and need to be liked. This is where the victim consciousness starts. So I'm going to go now. We're going to go now. We love you very much. Thank you so much for your participation. And we look forward to hearing your comments and speaking with you very, very soon. Take care for now.